Welcome everyone to Ask the Oracle podcast. Today, our topic is a really juicy one. It's empowering sacred leaders with the beautiful Julie Parker. Julie Parker is the founder of the Beautiful You Coaching Academy and is a magnificent mentor, counselor, coach, supervisor, and certified breathwork facilitator for spiritual leaders and space holders. Julie has trained thousands of life coaches worldwide and she's a sought-after speaker for clients including Apple, Telstra, and soulpreneurs. She's a recipient of many leadership and women's awards, an international award-winning published author, and the host of 2 top-ranking podcasts. Julie is dedicated to creating a world where mindfulness, wellness, and equity are valued. There's something about her, a gentle strength, a nurturing spirit, and a profound wisdom that shines through. She lives in Victoria, Australia. Welcome, Julie, to Ask the Oracle podcast. I'm so thrilled to have you here, my love. I'm a huge fan of yours. You've been a massive inspiration to me and so many others. It's an honor to have you on the show. Thank you so, so much for your generous spirit, dear heart.
Oh, Suzy, what a beautiful introduction. Thank you very, very much. I am absolutely delighted to be here with you and in service to your community.
Oh, my goodness. I just love you so much. Let's soar into the mystic together. Let's dive and delve deep. I've got some really juicy, gorgeous questions for you, my love. Firstly, can you share the story behind the incredibly successful Beautiful You Coaching Academy and what inspired you to become a mentor, counsellor, and coach for sacred leaders? And I love that you hold space for sacred leaders and space holders.
Well, I have had my own business and been in the online world now, Suzy, for more than 2 decades. And so I really have been around for some time. And my initial career began as a mental health clinician and social worker.
Oh,
And
really?
yeah, I started
Yeah,
out life
that's a great
as a
foundation.
therapist. Yeah,
Yeah.
wonderful foundation. And I worked specifically with young women and young people and young families. And I loved that work for almost a decade before I started to become a little bit burnt out. It's very intensive work, but I still was passionate about helping people to grow and expand. And that's when I found coaching. So this was in the very, very early days of the coaching industry, which still, by standards of many industries, is very young. And I did this course, which cost me an absolute bomb at the time. It was the very
We've all
first
done
time.
those.
Yeah, it's the very first
Unfinished
time.
usually. Yeah.
Oh, well, I definitely finished mine. And
Okay.
it was the very first time I'd ever used a credit card to pay for it, but I just knew that it was something that I had to do. And I absolutely loved it. And slowly from there, and I'm really truncating this because I'm trying to put 22 years into
Yes.
into a brief
How do
answer.
you condense that? Yeah.
Yeah, I started my own business, and I did that slowly alongside continuing to work as a clinician in community health. And over time, built that up to be incredibly successful, to the point where once I had a 6+ month waiting list to see me one-on-one. And then I knew that I had a significant issue that I wasn't going to be able to solve by continuing to just do one-on-one work. And by that time, most of the people that were coming to see me were coaches and other space holders. And they were asking me things like, Julie, what are you doing that's creating such success? How do you work with people that sees them, refers so many people on to you? You're writing, you're speaking. Can you help me? Can you teach me? And I did that with them one-on-one for a while and loved it, but then eventually realized it was too much. And that's really where the idea for the Academy was born. But also because over many, many years, I had developed my own model of life coaching that was very heart-centered, very soulful, and I wanted to see if people were interested in being trained in that way. And so the Beautiful You Coaching Academy was born almost 11 years ago now. We're in our 10th year at the moment. And I was just overwhelmed with the response. And we've now trained more than 2,500 life coaches from around
Wow.
the world,
Oh, that's
which is,
amazing.
yeah, incredible. All beautiful souls. And we're still going strong, which is amazing. And while for many years I stopped doing my own coaching, mentoring, and guiding, I have recently gone back to that because I
Okay.
realized I was missing it so much.
Yes, I totally
So
get that. Yeah.
yeah, I started that up again about 12 months ago. I just have a small caseload because most of my heart and soul is being put into the academy at the moment, but I'm absolutely loving seeing people one-on-one again in the areas of sacred leadership and enhancing their capacity to be a really wonderful space holder.
Oh, I love that explanation. I just love that it's called the Beautiful You too, because one of my core values is beauty. I used to think it was a superficial, value, but I've realized over time that to consciously create beauty, see beauty in people and situations, even, cruel life lessons, the blessings in the learning. I just love that. That's such a
Mm,
great way of sort of seeing the world. So
yeah.
I'm so curious, how do you define sacred leadership? And can you share some examples of how it's transformed the lives of those that you've mentored? And I've just realized then that, how has it impacted on your life as well? Because I
Mm.
know, that ever-evolving journey. I know, yeah, when you give a healing, you get a healing. When you do the teaching, you often receive your own life lessons as well. So I'd love your take on that. Yeah.
Mm. Thank you, Susie. There are a number of questions in there, and so
There
let me
is.
see what I can do to try
What
and
pops out,
condense. Yeah,
Yeah.
condense it. So I think that leadership, firstly, has been a passion of mine, even though I might not necessarily have realized it until I started to consciously think about it since I was a little girl in the Girl Guides, and then going on to be a junior leader in guides and doing things in the community in that way. But it's not been until more recent years, sort of the last 5 years or so, where my heart and eyes and soul have been really opened to sacred leadership.
Hmm.
And I think the reason that that has significantly happened for me is quite literally because I have been so disconnected and I guess unhappy or in absolute shock about some of the leadership or people in leadership roles, very influential roles that we see globally at the moment. And it just sort of stirred a lot in me thinking to myself, but you're being so divisive. That's not leadership. You're pitting people against one another. That's not leadership. You're incredibly focused on just getting to the top and climbing over
Yes.
everybody. It's very hierarchical, very patriarchal,
Oh, my
very
goodness. Yes.
influenced by excessive capitalism, white supremacy, and more. And I became truly, Susie, very disillusioned. And, my own research and exploration led me to an absolutely wonderful mentor by the name of Dr. Janara Gareng. And she is a First Nations woman located here in Australia. And I found some research that she had done in regards to sacred leadership. And when I began to learn more about her definition of sacred leadership and what it meant, suddenly my heart just began to explode because I was like, yes, this is it.
Oh, I've got tingles. That's so great.
Yeah, this is what real leadership, this is what
Yes,
sacred, soulful leadership is about.
exactly.
And it's very multifaceted, but essentially at the heart of it, Susie, sacred leadership is developing, first of all, an understanding that we lead from within, we lead in and then out, that it is not what we may have been taught in school or read in books to the extent of leadership is how well you can get other people to do things that you want them to do. And I know that's a very basic definition, but there's a lot of people that actually hold that definition
Oh, in
very
the corporate world,
strongly.
that's exactly how they
Yeah,
teach it. Yeah.
that's right. The more you can get people to do what you want
Yes.
them to do, the better the leader that you are. And I think that's a very low bar for us
Yes.
to set for
Yeah.
ourselves as leaders. And this work and exploration really helped me to understand that sacred leadership, as I said, begins within. And it's very much about understanding that if you want to be on a path of sacred leadership, because I don't think it's ever anything you attain, I think it's a path that I'm on for life. It's having a deep understanding that everything that I do has an impact in some way. And
Yes, that ripple effect. Yeah.
yeah, that's right. And
Yeah.
I need to ask myself deeply, is what I'm doing actually contributing to the betterment of the world, with people, with animals, with the environment, with encouraging others, with helping others open up to their own path and their own gifts? And if I hold those things closely in my heart and then act in a way that has that as a core tenet, then I'm
Yeah.
exercising my sacred leadership in this lifetime.
Oh, that's profound. I love that it's that ever-evolving journey,
Mm.
and
Always.
just to be so self-aware, as you said, coming as within, so without.
Mm.
Um, and just, yeah, I just love everything you just said. It's so amazing. Yeah. So I'm very, very, very curious too, because you made mention of trauma-informed soul business. Now, what does it mean to create a trauma-informed soul business? And how can coaches integrate these practices into their work to support their clients better?
Mm.
Is that shadow work, or is this something quite different?
No, it's something quite different
Right.
to shadow work.
Yes.
But in saying that, I believe that anybody in particular that works within the shadows with their clients, helping them to alchemize those parts of themselves that may
Yes.
feel fraught, difficult, shameful, all of those kinds of things we know that exist in the shadows, then personally, from my perspective, anybody that is holding space for others in that work, particularly, but in fact, just in general, I really truly believe should challenge themselves and expand their awareness to become trauma informed in what they do. And this is not a tick the box thing. It's something that requires ongoing education for life and having an understanding between what is being trauma aware, which is that you actually know what the definition of trauma is and what it
Yes.
isn't,
Right.
through to being trauma informed, which means that you have a deeper level of understanding. That's an entire other podcast in and of itself,
I love that. Oh,
Suzy.
yes. Well, I'd
It's
love to
so
get you back
deep.
to talk about
Yeah.
that in depth. Yeah.
Yeah. And then there is being trauma responsive, which can only be done by people who are actually clinically trained,
Yes.
such as psychologists, mental health clinicians, counselors, in actually helping people to be responsive to trauma that they may be actively walking with. Now, that's not most space holders, because most space holders are not trained in that way, and that's perfectly
Yeah.
okay. But being trauma informed, I think, is a very important tenet to all space holding. And really, it's about educating yourself around how you can be aware and informed about the role that trauma may play,
Yes.
in which we can't assume because it's not the same for everybody
That's right.
in our
Yeah.
clients' lives,
Yes.
and also then how we may respond to certain situations, and
Yes.
the deepening essentially of how we not do harm. And
This is so important.
yeah,
I
it's
remember
very
once I
important.
ran a meditation circle and I went to turn off the lights, and there was a beautiful participant that was suffering from quite severe PTSD and had a reaction to the lights going off.
Mm.
Um, so I feel like this is such a great topic to talk about, because it's so important that there is that awareness. Oh, I
Yeah.
totally understand where you're coming from now. That's
Mm.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, I do believe this is very important, and I'd love to actually, if I could, recommend a resource
Yes.
to you and to anybody listening that is interested in exploring how to become more trauma informed, and that
Yes.
is to look up the work of a woman called Katie Kurtz. Her surname is spelled Kurtz. Katie is, I had the very wonderful fortune of training her as a coach. But prior to then, she had a whole range of skills in the social work and trauma areas. She is an absolutely wonderful person to follow online and to learn from about what it means to be trauma informed. And of course, you can work with her in a paid capacity, but she's highly generous and puts out so much good information that will start you on that path. She's a wonderful person to follow and learn from
Oh,
in
thank you
this
for sharing
space.
that. That's fabulous. I know I do a lot of referral. I've got a lot of beautiful psychologists and counsellors that I refer my clients onto.
Mm.
So I think it's really important work. So I'm really glad we touched on that. That is so great. So I know that you're a lover of breath work, and I am too, the beautiful sacred breath. So can you explain the benefits of breath work and its impact on personal and professional growth?
Mm. Well, I'm going to be really basic to begin with here,
Yeah.
Susie, and say that one of the main things that I love about breath work is that we all breathe as living
Yes.
human beings, and it is a tool that we can access within ourselves completely for free.
Oh, I love
It
that. That is,
it
oh God, I
doesn't
got tingles again. Exactly. Especially at
it
the moment, people are looking for strategies and tools and,
mm,
that are free. So,
yes.
yeah, you're right.
Of course, there are many paid ways that you can go to a class or you can
Yes.
do things online and things like that. But the first thing that I love about breath work is that it is such an embodied practice, and it's part of our cells. It's part of the main part of what keeps us alive, and we take it for granted in many ways. And I think studying to become a breathwork facilitator for me happened as a result of having some life-changing breathwork experiences. And I think that's how many people come to it. And for me, it felt like the missing part, or not so much the missing part, actually. It felt like a beautiful addition to much of the mind work and
Yes.
the
The mindset work.
cerebral
Yeah.
and cognitive work that we sometimes do as
Yes.
space holders. And it just allowed me to be significantly more embodied, I think, in my own work. And
Yes.
I certainly know, there have been times when I might have been feeling anxious or unwell, where really tapping into my breath and breathing slowly and consciously and mindfully has just
Yeah.
helped bring me back to equilibrium in so many ways. It's not for everybody. And I think that that's an important thing to say, even further with the concept of being trauma informed. Somatic
Yes.
practices, whether they be spinal energetics or breath work or
There's so
any
many amazing
anything,
modalities out there. Yeah.
so many. And
Yeah.
for some
Find the
people, they
one that
don't like it.
resonates. Yeah.
Exactly. And some
Yeah.
people, I had a girlfriend who went to a breathwork class once. It was not one that I was running. She said, I just didn't like it. She said, I couldn't. And I said, that's totally
Yeah.
fine. It's like, for me, I hear lots of people talk about ice baths and how amazing
Oh,
they are.
I
For
can't do
me,
it.
Susie, I'm a hard no.
I
I'm
went to a
like,
retreat and they're like, and they pulled out the ice bath. And I'm sure that I've got a past life trauma. I'm sure I went down with the Titanic or something because everybody else did the ice bath. And I'm going, oh, I think I'll wait for the Lomi Lomi massage. I'm not hopping in ice water. I have a fear of ice water. And it's a fear that I didn't want to overcome.
Sure. And
So,
so that was your decision at that
yes.
point in time. For me, that's not a somatic practice either that I love. I already know that I don't love really cold water, let alone ice cold
Oh my
water.
goodness, you and I are on the same page there.
Yeah. And so, but I have other people who say
Who
it's
love it. It's so
extraordinary.
it
Yeah.
regenerates. I know it's amazing. I
Yeah.
know the science is behind it. you know. Yeah, it's so
It's not
unusual
for
for me too,
everyone.
because I'm that person at the retreat that, will walk on on the hot coals. I fully commit to everything, but that particular one, no, I couldn't bring myself to do it.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah,
this just is why it's important that we find what works for us. But I certainly know that for me, I love breath work. I've seen people have really I particularly love doing breath work with groups. I don't
yes,
do one-on-one breath work. I know many wonderful people who do, but for me, it is something that I like to do with groups of people. In particular, I love to do it on the retreats that I hold when a level of trust and also surrender has is evident with the group and with the experience that they're going through, because I find that's when people have the most wonderful experiences and specifically are able to. The number one thing I love about it is that it allows people a beautiful body practice to tap into their deepest intuition and wisdom, and to bring forth things from there, which is just so powerful.
oh, I love that. Dropping from the repetitive thought down to the heart, into the body, and just really going within and really tapping into your own inner wisdom. That's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
So, how do you integrate the values of presence, healing? And I know that your social justice is really important to your work and your teachings. And why do you believe these ethics are essential for creating a more compassionate and just world? Because I know this is something that I've seen you advocate for so beautifully. Yeah.
Thank you, Suzy. Well, really, all of the things that you've just mentioned there are part
Yeah.
of the path of a sacred leadership. Healing, justice, compassion, uh, witnessing of others, and also having an understanding that I walk through the world as a very privileged person. I'm white, I'm able bodied, I'm tertiary educated, I live in a beautiful home, all of which I've worked very hard for, but that doesn't negate the fact that through many different circumstances, I was born into the world with a lot of privilege. Not rich in any, major capacity, a billionaire, anything like that. And I think that that's what a lot of people think you have to be very privileged, and that's not true at all. I'm
Exactly.
I'm so much more privileged
Yeah.
than somebody that than a woman who is Black and a single mother.
Yes.
Um, I'm so much more privileged than somebody who walks through the world with, is not fully able-bodied and may not even be able to walk through the world. And
Yeah.
so holding recognition of these things influences how I turn up in the world every single day, trying to make my work as accessible um, in in every touch point that I possibly can, especially with the academy. We have a sliding scale of payments to support people, because the fact of the matter is that some life coaching courses are, and just education these days as an adult is very expensive. And I don't want to contribute to any kind of coaching industry that means only those with a lot of financial means can access wonderful education, wonderful teachers, wonderful trainers, wonderful communities to then be able to go out and share their gifts with the world. So I'm constantly looking for ways of trying to make things as equitable as possible, while also, of course, being very equitable with my staff, who I want to pay excellent wages and
Oh,
and
wow. Yeah.
support
So great.
beautifully,
Yeah.
in many different ways. And so
Yes.
there are lots of layers to it, Suzy,
There's
but it's
there's
just
lots of
about
layers to that. Yeah.
holding
Your own
everything.
team, your
Mm,
clients, the wider world,
yes.
you know. And I just love that you walk, you talk, and you weave that magic into everything you do.
Oh, thank you.
And it's so obvious that you do it you do it from a really genuine heart space, which is so beautiful.
Well, thank you
Um,
for seeing me. I appreciate
yes,
that.
exactly. So many people talk about it, but it's just really, yeah, obvious that you actually do those beautiful things. So yeah, that's so great. Now, I know you're a priestess, and I love that energy, that beautiful personification, that beautiful archetype. And I'd love to know how you weave sacred rituals and practices into your everyday, because I know that we have this beautiful professional kind of pathway, but we also have our own personal journey as well. And yeah, I'd love to know what are your favorite kind of spiritual practices?
Yeah, I feel called to just mention one. There are many, but I think
Yes,
the one that is most important to me, it's sort of an interweaving of two, I guess, is first of all, the wisdom and beauty of my ancestors through the Celtic lineage is very nature based. And
yes.
so for me, living very seasonally and paying attention to cycles in life is incredibly
You must be psychic.
important.
That's the next question.
Oh, right. Okay. That's
you,
that's very
you're very
important.
intuitive. Yeah, yeah. But yeah,
That's
no,
very
please go
important to
on.
me.
It's
And
relevant. Yeah.
yeah, and it ends up being something that my favorite sacred ritual or space or practice is really around always having a seasonal altar. And it's something, it just lives here in my sort of like office and
Yes.
space,
Yeah.
holding space here. And I love that as a spiritual touch point for myself. Obviously, the most important spiritual touch point for all of us is our soul and our inner world and our heart. But from a physical 3D perspective,
Yes.
I love having an altar with candles, flowers, crystals, different things that have different meaning to me at different times.
Yes.
And usually I've found it's very seasonally uh, inspired. So right now there's a lot of pink and white and pastel colors because we have just moved into the time of spring. The equinox is coming very soon.
Yes.
And I'm feeling that maiden pastel, joyful, a somewhat girly energy. And I'm wanting to leave behind the slumber of winter and really put a spark in my step. And that beautiful altar helps me to do that. And it's a place that I sit in front of and meditate and pray, or sometimes may do some breath connection or use oracle cards. And that's a really important part of my day in spiritual practice.
I just love earth medicine. I love creating altars and sacred spaces. And I think, celebrating the different seasons and, oh, yeah, absolutely. And, the new energy of spring and the maiden. And oh my goodness, I love that so much. I almost, as you were explaining that, in my mind's eye, I could see that beautiful, stunning altar that you've created. That sacred space, that place where you can sit and get still and yeah, and it's beautiful. I love that. So what are your future aspirations? What's on the cards for the beautiful Julie Parker? Is
Oh,
there
gosh.
anything? Yeah, because I know you're a visionary and you're a master
Mm.
manifester, and I know that you love to kind of, consciously create your life. I don't think you do anything accidentally. I know that you have a lot of beautiful conscious intention and deliberate focus and all of that. So what's the cards for you, my love? What's next for you?
Yeah, well, I'm so loving being back working with sacred leaders one on one and in small groups at the moment. And I'm looking
Yes.
forward to continuing with that. I am beginning to feel the slow emergence of another physical, tangible, either book or maybe deck
Yay.
that's coming forth.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
I think so.
Oh,
Yes. It's
wow.
like once a writer,
Oh, my
always a
goodness. Yes,
writer.
please.
I haven't started that yet, but I can just I'm very much a believer that things like that come through in the time that they're meant to.
Yes.
And in the last couple of years of my life, I have moved to a completely different area of Australia. My elderly mum has come to live with my husband and I. I've had some health challenges. It hasn't quite been the right time for a beautiful piece of work like a book or a deck of cards to come forth. But I'm out the other side of that now, and with this spring energy that's
Oh,
abounding,
how wonderful.
I am starting to begin to
Planting
feel,
seeds in fertile
yeah,
soil, my love.
yeah, exactly. It's coming.
Exactly. How exciting.
Yes.
An oracle card deck, a new book. I can't wait. So good. What advice would you give to someone that's very new on their spiritual journey? They're embarking on the journey, and I know, life is an ever-evolving spiritual journey anyway, whether or not you know it or not. But what would be some advice that you would give to someone that's very new on that kind of self-discovery, spiritual growth journey?
Mm. There's just one main thing that I would love to share with everyone. There could be many, but this is the main one. Absolutely, when you are on your path and beginning with this exploration for yourself, it's a wonderful idea to seek out teachers, books,
Yes.
guides, to help and inspire and support you. But do not ever forget that your greatest teacher is yourself. The greatest wisdom that you will ever access will not come from someone else, it will come from within you. And that a sacred and spiritual leader already is with you and lives inside of you. And whatever it is that you can consistently do to keep returning to your inner world and the magic and the whispers and the soul callings that come forth for you are what this path is truly all about. There are wonderful people such as you, Suzy. Maybe someone is drawn to me, or many other people that you can access sparks of inspiration and wisdom and guidance from. But ultimately, in the end, it's about what comes forth from inside of you. So keep doing whatever you can to come back to yourself.
That hit my heart. That was a glimmer. That was beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's so beautiful. I'm wondering if I can share a couple of oracle cards that I intuitively selected for you from my new deck, the Moon Temple Oracle. And I know that you love all the natural seasons and moon phases and all of
I
that.
do.
I know, yeah. And yeah, it would be an honor if I could share a couple of cards from my new deck. And it's the Moon
Please, I
Temple
would love
Oracle.
that. Oh,
Art by Lila Savalainen. She's a gorgeous South Australian artist, and published by Blue Angel, which are amazing publishers, by the way.
I
But the
love
two
all
cards
of the Blue Angel books and get the best decks in the world. They are incredible.
oh, thank you for that. Yeah, it's just, I feel so lucky to be a part of that Blue Angel family. They're amazing. And they really are a family. It's such a
Mm.
beautiful, beautiful publishing house. So it's so appropriate because with the season of spring, which is all about the maiden, and I've got this beautiful new moon card. I'm not quite sure if you can see it, but we've got this beautiful little baby being born into the world and all these gorgeous spring flowers, and the colors are pink and gorgeous yellow, and it's that sacred womb, the universal womb. And you and I both know you don't need to be a mother to be a
Mm.
nurturer. It's
Mm-hmm.
that nurturing energy. So fertility, it's an abundance card. What seeds are you currently planting? Because it's the right time for, we've just had a new moon where we're flowing into spring in the Southern Hemisphere. It's about getting conscious about what seeds are we planting. And I just thought that was so appropriate
It is
with the
very
beautiful
appropriate.
circle that you've just had.
Yes.
And this one is really stunning. This is the number 3. I love number 3, and it's the the new moon, and she's just gorgeous. I don't know if you can see
I
her.
can. Stunning card. Beautiful. Wow. The illustration, so gorgeous.
She's done such a beautiful job. We've done a lot of work together, and we have a telepathic connection. And I give her an art brief, and she just comes up with exactly, I don't know what I'm visualizing anyway. So there's some magic happening there. But the word again is seed. What are we seeding? And it's that beautiful kind of fresh, new energy of spring and the new moon. So yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much. They are so potent, especially given, that I've just publicly said for the first time that I feel the next book or deck of cards or my first deck of cards it would be is potentially coming through. So that's amazing.
Yes, so appropriate. And yeah, fingers crossed that you end up in my publishing house. I have a good, strong feeling about that.
Oh,
So how can our listeners connect with you? I know that you're very accessible and you've got the most generous heart and spirit. How can they learn more about your sacred work and your soulful offerings and all the beautiful things that you do?
Oh, thank you for asking, Suzy. The best way to connect is at juliesuzanneparker.com or beautifulyoucoachingacademy.com.
I love that. My full name is actually Suzanne
Ah,
Maria. Yeah. I've got
okay.
Portuguese heritage on dad's side and Celtic on mum's.
Right.
So I'm
Okay.
a mixture. So that's my ancestral roots. But
Okay.
yeah, when you said your second name, I thought, oh my goodness, look at that.
There
We've
you
got the
go. Yeah. Well,
same kind of name.
I was almost Suzanne. My mum wanted to call me Suzanne,
Yes.
and my dad wanted to call me Julie. Dad won
Yeah.
out for first girl, mum won out for second girl, my younger sister. So that's how it goes. But she had a favorite aunt who unfortunately was very unwell when she was pregnant with me, and she said to her one day, "I wonder whether your baby is going to be a Susie or a Sam." And she knew that she was not going to be alive when I was born. And from that moment on, for mum, if I'd been born a boy, I was going to be Samuel, and if I was born a girl, I was going to be Suzanne.
How beautiful.
So yeah, so Julie Suzanne. So I have a special affiliation with that name too. So
It's gorgeous. My grandmother in spirit on my Portuguese side, her name was Maria Susana, and my name's
mm.
Suzanne Maria. But of course, my
Ah,
spiritual registered business name is Suzy Cherub.
yes.
So I
Beautiful.
so appreciate you coming on the Ask the Oracle podcast. You've been absolutely beautiful, amazing, inspiring, just such a delight. So infinite heartfelt blessings to you, my love. Thank you so, so much.
Thank you, Suzy. Such an honor, truly, to be invited on, and blessings to you and your community.
Beautiful. Thank you. Bye for now.
Bye bye.